Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Astral interview. And here with me, I have Robert Potter. Robert's been researching healing and consciousness for what, 40 years now? More probably.
Probably a little more.
um, he's done world tours in various sacred sites. He's a UFO experiencer and still a contactee, correct?
Yeah, in fact, I've met many throughout my life, and I finally had a very special meeting that was arranged by my friend Dr. Keller.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, just the basics, first of all, to let everyone know who you are and where you came from. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in San Francisco. My mother came from back east. Her grandmother was Catherine Tiffany, and the family was involved in actually making a special green lamp, green glass, and jewelry and stuff like that. My father was from Australia, and then they were married in San Francisco, and my dad's half Australian, and they moved to Arizona, divorced, and I grew up in Laguna Beach, which is very beautiful, wonderful,
Beautiful.
hippie-like area. So I'm gonna share with you here my this is my home page. I'm gonna take you through. I have that's a tour we're doing in
That's
Egypt.
amazing.
I sell some health products, but I want to show you the cool thing. I want to invite all your listeners to come to.
Absolutely.
Let me see here. Come on. Uh, we're moving through my little bars here, but here on the About Me section is kind of what we're doing here, and we should be coming up to my. That's my blog section, which is have some amazing stuff with Dr. Raymond Keller and myself. This was my summer conference in Mount Shasta. It's called Higher
Right.
Light Come Together. And then in November, I'm going to Egypt with another world famous contactee, Louis Martens and Anna. Um,
Oh,
I'm an
awesome.
expert on pyramids, so I'll share a little bit about that. So I want to take you back to the early days in Laguna Beach. Um, uh, and this should take us, if we can, we're slow loading here, I'm sorry. So what happened was
It's
is in
okay.
1973 or
Hmm.
4, um, I was really into pyramids. I wanted to know what was going on. I was reading psychic discoveries behind the Iron Curtain and all that stuff. And I met this guy named
So what
Fred.
what was it that drew you to pyramids in the first place?
I don't know. It's past life. It's something like that. I mean, I don't go into my past lives and say, oh, I think I'm this or that. I think
Right.
you need to have that own experience for yourself. And we're all humans, whether you're a star seed or not. You're all here. You're all in human
Yeah.
body, and you're all dealing with it. Although it's good to be aware and awaken and understand that process of what's happening. So, um, and when I was very young, this is my cosmic journey, so to speak. When I was about
Wow.
8 years up, and I couldn't figure out why the world is such a mess. Why there's so much evil in the world. And I was pondering this, and I asked my mom. I said, "What's out there in outer space? Where's it go? Where's it end?" And she laughed. She said, "It never ends." And I kind of laughed. I said, "It never ends." She goes, and then she said, "What if there's a fence? What's on the other side? Where do you think it goes?" So I started to ponder on the immensity of the infinite space, and a spaceship
Right.
appeared. I was living in a base ship, and a spaceship moved and appeared in the window, and I received my first telepathic contact. And
Wow.
and then and they told me some stuff, and you can read this. But I started to get
Yeah.
into Carlos Castaneda in high school, and I grew up on the beach. This is like
Awesome.
a view about I could see this rock from my front porch. So it was a beautiful Laguna
Hmm.
Beach home. And then this is the guy I met, Dr. Fred Bell, a NASA scientist. His father invented the uh, alternator for Henry
Okay.
Ford and the automatic transmission. His father bought the London Bridge over brick by brick as an engineer, and his great uncle
Wow.
invented the telephone. At the age of 15, he was everyone who looked at his chart, he's super scientifically oriented. At the age of 15, he was studying the shock wave of the atomic bomb. At the age of 16, the government took him, and they took him to Santa Barbara. And by the age of 17, he uh, right before his 17th birthday, Then they took him to Santa Barbara, and he got a PhD in physics. And he ended up working in the Air Force. And then this is a front page of a National Enquirer article, and this was the interstellar conversion process that he had been given from the Pleiadians. So,
wow.
The first day I met him, he was creating these. Here, I'll just grab one. These pyramids.
Okay.
So he had this pyramid, and I got there. He was coming in with his very first design of 50 pyramids. So I'm going to stop share here for a second, and so you can see that. This is a pyramid. I wear it on my head. So the pyramid is pyramid, fire in the middle. It has a life force, a living life force. So I was to learn all about this, and through my long-term association with Dr. Fred Bell. So, and he was having experiences with a female cosmonaut named Semyasi, and that's
right.
the very famous contactee in the 70s, the first one. And Billy Meyer was having contacts as well. Now Fred was having scientific contacts. So let's go back to when he graduated from the Air Force. They put him on the #1 radar set, the early warning radar of California. The farthest westernmost point besides Alaska and Hawaii was the Point Reyes Station. It was an ANFS P-38. It could fry an egg at 50,000 feet, 5 miles out. So it was a very high-powered radar. And they go, well, where's the new guy who's in charge? And here comes this 20-year-old kid, or 23-year or 22-year-old kid in charge of the entire thing. If anything goes wrong, he's the guy that's going to get in there and crawl around and figure it out. So, he's very was sharp. So what happened was the UFOs were coming in, and he was complaining they weren't reporting him. This is during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So at that point, he was making a stink.
And so Fred Bell and you, other than that experience, what was your relationship like?
It was more, he was a spiritual mentor, a teacher, a guide, a friend, and he introduced me to the extraterrestrials. And through my association with him, I met a Pleiadian named James in Canada when I spoke once up in Alberta in 1987 or 89. And then, of course, I met Semyasi in Laguna Beach on several occasions. She was extremely beautiful. And they have like this,
oh my God,
kind of a fake body type thing. So what they were doing, basically after that UFO came, he complained and they said, look, did you see a UFO? He said yes, and they put him in a straitjacket and took him to the thing because they were burning the report.
No.
So he went. Then he quit and got a honorable discharge, and then he went to NASA. So these are the laser systems that we use in the pyramids. We create. You can see this actually a little portal created here. The energy vortex was. This is actually we use incense smoke and stuff too. So we use laser crystal color technology with the pyramids. So a big part of my life was developed. Was about understanding myself and going through different initiations with him.
Right.
And learning. That's kind of a more esoteric personal experience. And the Pleiadians were taking me out of my body on a regular basis in programmed contacts. And,
wow.
And I call them metaphysical alchemical journeys and out-of-body experiences. But these were hard to realize as a person.
Well,
at 19 or 20.
You were growing up so young. Yeah.
So I didn't really know. And then then I moved on. There was another teacher, very famous contactee, who became very instrumental in my life, and his name was Gabriel Green.
Okay.
And then he took me, I was out in the desert, I was doing healing work. I've been a massage therapist for 44 years now. and I still do it, but that was kind of my main bread and butter throughout my life. And I was working
Wow.
down at a famous spa, and he called me on the phone. He was up in Yucca Valley near Giant Rock, not too far from where I was, and he said, "Hey, Rob, the Ascended Master Hilarion wants you to come out to my house. He's sending a teacher." So I'm like, okay. So,
Okay, sure.
well, I knew about the Ascended Masters, and I was having these experiences, and all my experiences were out of body. I mean, I saw ships come down over the house on several occasions with Fred,
Okay.
when Semyasi was there. You know, that was kind of a thing, but it wasn't. It was very intangible. She wasn't in a silver spacesuit. She was just like a woman, and she didn't really say who she was. But from my later experience, I know that she was a extraterrestrial woman, and they can take on human bodies. And
Various forms.
oh, you're breaking
They
up.
take on various human forms, right?
They can take on. They can create clone bodies and step into them, especially beings from other worlds with different
Right.
gravity, different oxygen, so they can work amongst us. That's a
Got
known
you.
technology. But the Pleiadians actually, James was in his Pleiadian body. The guy I met, he had no hair. You could see into his veins look like blue vein. They're very. He's kind of translucent because the Pleiadians
Right.
are like the Venusians. They're physical, but they're in the higher etheric aspect of the physical. So because I was having
Okay.
these out of body experiences, I wasn't clear. So that's why they arranged this guy to come out and teach me.
Okay. And so what did you learn from him, or what did you gain from him that you didn't already know?
Well, he was explaining to me when the guy called me on a pager, Gabe, and so I
Yeah.
went to a TikTok. This is back in the 80s. So, and I called him back on the phone, and he told me, "You better come out." So I hung up the phone, and it rang like a fire alarm when I hung it up. Everyone was looking inside the store, in the parking lot, across the street, this way and that way. I was like, I was just kind of like, and everyone's looking at me. Well, pick it up. That thing's obnoxious. I picked it up, and I heard a space echo, like woo woo. And Gabe had already played me when they've called him on the phone, and he played a recording for me. So I recognized
Wow.
that this was the space people telling me, "Look, don't meet a pretty girl and blow off this meeting. Someone's really coming." So I went up there, and I went with some other contactees. One of them was speaking at my conference, Frank Chili, and some other ones.
Right.
And we're there, and the guy's in the back room, and I go, "So where's the guy?" He goes, "He's in there." And then he comes out, he's meditating in my room, and he went from room to room. He kind of kept opening doors, and so finally I get up and I walk he's in the middle room of the library, and I said, he said, "Hey, I'm Rob." And I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm shifting the energy in the house." So so I go, "Okay." And so he goes, "I'll be out in a second." He did a couple more things, and he came out and he went behind this guy who was making a salad, Michael Legion, and he went like this. And I go, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm giving him a healing." I said, I said, "Do you see auras?" And he looked at me and goes, "Yes, I do."
Right.
And I go, "What do you see in mine?" And he goes,
Right.
he says, "You move pretty fast. You're doing pretty good." He says, "You think you know more than you do, but you're doing okay." And then this is kind of one of the main things he taught me at the time, which has come into play and is much
Yeah.
more relevant now. There was a girl next to him who called herself Lady Venus, and she was going to open the crystalline chambers that would activate the New Age. And she was kind of tuned into the general theme of what's taking place, but she was putting herself in a very ego. She called herself Lady Venus, and I thought, oh my God, this is, she's a little out there for me.
Out there.
Yeah. So he came over to her and he looked at her and he goes, "Oh, you're possessed." and she goes, "What?" And she kind of got negative, but he was really straightforward. He was a military guy. So this is one of the primary experiences of my life that kind of kicked off a lot of things here. And I was kind of watching her, and he was standing there with me, and he goes like this. He was talking to her, and he was talking about possession and the Greys. This was when the Greys
Right.
were. We didn't really know what the Greys were. We were
Yeah.
hearing about the Space Brothers, and then they came out. And he said, "Oh, look, you see the shift." And I was able to observe the frequency shift in her consciousness, where she was becoming possessed. And he got her to the point where she could almost take some water. He goes, "We take this."
So you were now able to see. So you were now able to see what they were telling you was happening.
I was able to see what he was guiding me through was trying to do a type of exorcism on,
Okay.
on a thing, but she wasn't ready. There were a lot of people. Now he was a military guy. He said he cussed a little bit. He goes, "Well, that's this is that, and that's fucked up," and he was kind of using and Michael goes, "You shouldn't be using negative language," and Gabriel Green says. He goes, "Everyone's been saying something about this guy except Rob," and because I kind of could see that she was a little out there, but
Yeah.
he, goes,
So they asked what you thought.
and he said, "I have it on good authority. This man knows what he's talking about." So everyone shut up,
Wow.
and then he went around and gave some readings and stuff, basically, and we ended up having some private conversations over the next day or so. But he. I asked him. I said, "Well, what's this? What about the spaceships?" And then he said, "Rob," he said, "at Fred's house, you've experienced the ships settle into the building." And I said, "Yeah. I mean, what do you mean?" And at that moment, a spaceship settled into the building. It's on
Oh
another
wow.
dimension, and a golden light. He was sitting in the center of the room, and this golden light. I call it the Feast of Lights. I don't know what else to call it, but there were about
Right.
10 people in the room. We were sitting uh, in a circle around him, and it was very strange because I guess I was kind of like a spider because I was looking at every single person directly in their eye. So I had the feeling that this was kind of like an interdimensional experience, kind of a fusion of the third and fourth dimension type of.
Right.
And so I recognized that that's what would happen before I would leave my body. Fred would call me up when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. He'd go, "Rob, coming up to the temple." He goes, "The temple is humming." And what that would mean would be I worked as a waiter. He'd call me up usually 11 to 1 in the morning.
Okay.
And I would come up, and before I'd come in, I'd just go to every corner of the 3-level house, and I'd light the incense. And I would sit myself down in the center of, I'll show you now while I'm talking about it,
Okay.
a pyramid system. And this is what Fred had in his living room, was
Right.
a series of these columns. These are called the radiators. This is called the
Okay.
mini fire star. And this is called an omnion, pretty advanced thing. And then over here is called a star orb. That grounds out elf waves. And so all of these were connected to a Tesla coil. And this is another one there. So what I would do is
Right.
I'd sit down there, and I was given specific breathing exercises.
Okay.
And I was working with Tibetan dorjis and things like this.
Can can you share a couple of those exercises with us now?
Um, yeah, I mean, essentially, um, there's. He told me never, not to share them too much. He said some of it's a little bit top secret, but
Fair enough.
basically, it's not that secret. Everyone knows it's a technique called Kriya Yoga. There's some other things that were going on there that I just can't talk about, but
Right.
the Kriya Yoga technique was given to the earth through what they call a Maha avatar named Babaji. And he is an Indian. He's kind of like what they call a Lapika Lord of Karma. There's 4 of them. He has a consort named Mataji, and there's some other ones I've never heard of or don't know about. And I actually met him in
David Sweet often talks about Babaji.
about
David Sweet often talks about Babaji, and he apparently studied with him as well.
he appeared to me in 1978. I was at what
Wow.
was called a Rainbow Gathering, and I didn't recognize this until '98. So he blocked my memory from it a little bit, or I wasn't ready for the experience. But I was at a Rainbow Gathering. A kid comes up and goes, "Oh, the master wants to see you. The master wants to see you." I said, Fred was kind of my teacher and master. I said, I kind of have. He said, no, the master. So I went and sat down, and there was this man, Babaji. I have a picture of him here. Oops, no, I don't. Oh, here we go. This is Babaji. So there's a picture of him, and
Okay.
and he looked somewhat similar to that. He actually looked more like Harikhan Baba, but the famous image of him with his eyes.
Isn't that Vivekananda?
No, this is Babaji. That's one artistic impression of him. But
right.
The main thing about Babaji is that his eyes rolled back in his head. He goes, I want to teach you something. And Fred had already taught me this, and this is called the breath of fire. You breathe into the nose and out through the mouth. You focus your attention on your third eye. I was like 19 years old, so I could get in, or 20, so I could get into a full lotus with my legs. And you squeeze off a bond, and you do deep breathing. And he basically did that. He said, look, I want to show you something. And he went, ah. It's like he was getting ready with his beloved, and he rolled his eyes back. They got white, and then I watched, and his eyes even went further back. So his eyes were, energy follows thought. So the idea is to actually, part of the spiritual development of the breathing exercises is to bring light and life force into the pineal gland. This is the spiritual eye, the connector. And we all have the 7 spirits before the throne, like we have 7 levels of pyramid energy, the 7 chakras. The 7 endocrine glands is what we're working with. The endocrine glands secrete hormones into the bloodstream, and this is where our feelings come from. So the feelings that we have are actually affected by sound, light, color, nature of environment, liquids and foods digested, and karma, dharmic fate. And guess what the number one source of feelings is?
What is it?
Our thoughts.
The heart. Our thoughts.
Our thoughts. The heart gland, the thymus is the chakra, and it has a sub, like if you follow the Tibetan, where the energy comes in through all the glands, it goes from a gland to an organ, from a gland to an organ. And so the 7 notes of the musical scale, if you do half notes, 13 is the octave. And if you look, you have actually 12 meridians, 12 organ meridians. So we see this light relationship in the science of the alchemy of the luminous light body. And so this was most of my initiations were in developing my consciousness in relationship to understanding the light force body in my consciousness and developing.
So when you say light force body, is that synonymous to the auric field then?
Yes, there's J.J. Hurtak has done a very good job in the Keys of Enoch. He does talk about there's the Gematrian body, the Zohar body, there's different names from them throughout our historical history. And of course, with the new government secret programs that they've developed, they have understood this quite well, and they actually manipulate and use this to our detriment. And that's how a lot of the mind control and all that kind of stuff goes on. But we're breaking free of that now. So,
amen.
So I learned this technique called the Kriya Yoga, which is the science of the still breath, where you offer the in-breath to the out-breath, and you remain absolutely immobile with no thoughts, and you literally are circulating the light up and down, from your crown into the earth, to the universe, to back and forth. And if you can practice 108 perfect
Right.
kriyas, it's kind of like a laser. When they make a laser beam, it bounces back and forth, and when it reaches a high enough frequency, just like a light bulb, an alternating current, it emits light. So you're breathing. I do that to get charged, and then you go into stillness, and then you can
Right.
take one breath can take 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I can
Right.
very slowly, and some of these yogis can hold their breath in the suspended animation state. And I teach that in my conferences and stuff. I do a little session of that.
So how do you consciously move your eye to the very back like that?
I'm not Babaji, and so I, to be honest, I mean, I do focus on it. I have periods of time. I move my head around. I have different techniques to just open up and decalcify and to bring light in there. And of course, there's all kinds of nutritional things that we have to do. Vitamins are one thing, but minerals are another. Minerals are what we need colloidal minerals in our body of a
Right.
full spectrum, because our soil is denatured, so that there's the strawberries, the food has no taste because they're taking the same nutrients out of the soil every time. They're not composting it, they're burning the crops, so eventually it becomes barren ground, and
Right.
the earth becomes salted, so to speak. So the minerals are what call the vitamins into action. So you eat the vitamins and digest in the body, and now the vitamins are ready to go. They're in a kind of an energetic liquid state, absorbed into the body to be drawn to the different
Right.
areas. And without the minerals, you don't have them. So you need to be able to absorb the minerals. So one of the things we learned to do is to take colonics to clear the large intestine, because we have a lot of auto intoxication from all the poisons and toxins that we do. So
Hmm.
I do a lot of protocols in various cleansing techniques to remove heavy metals, and even to clean the gut out from all the glycophosphates that come in with malathion and DDT and all
So
that.
like black coffee?
Black coffee is a very
Like black
strong.
coffee?
That's a good enema, actually. You take that, it purges the liver, which is a biochemical mastermind,
Right.
and you can
Right.
remove a lot of toxins that way. So I'm glad you know about that. So we traveled the country with Fred Bell for 10 years. I went around the country with Pat Flanagan, Victoris Kovinskis, Dr.
Yeah.
Christopher, Pavlo Areola, many luminaries. Wataru Hashi, who bought shiatsu to America back in the day. I actually met him
Wow.
right after he got off the plane with Victoris Kovinskis and David Karmos and I.
Oh my God, you must have stories on stories to tell and such a rich life.
I was very fortunate, and that experience with Babaji, I didn't recognize. I was young, but I kind of knew it. But he had initiated me, and years later, I worked with another contactee named Norm Paulson, who was Yogananda's one of his first disciples in America, and he had some extraterrestrial experiences as well, and had a face-to-face meeting with Jesus Christ
Yeah,
himself.
absolutely. Yogananda, I know, did. Vivekananda did too, right?
Yeah, Vivekananda was he was like the first one to bring the East to the West. So
That's right.
now we're merging science and spirituality, the science of the nature of consciousness and the luminous light body, and all of this information is seated. And from your work with David, who I respect greatly, I mean, he's tremendous. We realize that this world is not in harmony with God's law.
Right.
One term is
It's
Jesus.
interesting. It's interesting. David and I were just kind of debating that whole subject. Or I had this dream where I see Enoch, and Enoch is in this craft, for lack of a better word, and it's It's etheric, it's not physical. And this craft comes down, and I don't know what's Enoch, but the telepathic transmission then relays that I'm Enoch. And then the words are that, this is God's domain. Humanity is God's domain. Fear not. And then that was the end of that dream sequence. And I shared it with David, and David's reaction was, no, this isn't God's domain. This is not God's domain. And that's why we're in this situation that we're in. And so we had a little debate back and forth whether or not this is God's domain.
Well, I'm going to take the middle ground and say you're both right. But,
yeah.
There is a cosmic history here that's will be revealed in the near future. At this point, there's so much misinformation, but for those direct contactees who have experience with the spiritual hierarchy of light, there's a hierarchy of darkness. It's called the Orbos, and this was some of the beings that were cast down from the super Earth known as Maldek, that destroyed itself and caused the Ice Age and all that stuff when the sky turned black for 3 days. And a lot of things are historical, physical events that took place. Now, God doesn't judge punishment, but God has a perfect measure of balance. Yeah. So everything is part of God's light, but mankind has degraded that by his attention and focus on evil and not obeying God's laws. So you can say Jesus is going to judge, but you could really just say God's law is going to judge, because Jesus is the first begotten son of the Father, who, because Adam was corrupted by the devil or the snake or the interference in the evolution of humankind that corrupted mankind. And with their presence here, and there are many places throughout the universe, it's an artificial intelligence, and there's different races involved in this, and some of them are cast down for this final judgment, so to speak. And we're coming to a head here, and unfortunately it took a long time to reach this level of civilization. Now, the Venusians, who I contacted, which was also through Gabriel Green originally.
So when you say Venusians, you're talking about Venus?
Talking about beings on Venus, the physical. Yeah. They're actually fourth dimensional, like the Pleiadians.
Right.
There's fifth dimensional Venusians. There's sixth dimensional. The woman I met is Venusian. She's on Earth. She was born in the French Revolution, and she became in service to there, and she translated to Venus. I can share that. I can share some of that stuff with you.
Sure.
So I'll just share with you some of the Venusians I met, and this is through a friend of mine, Raymond Keller, who arranged an official meeting with. Can you see my? You can see my whole screen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to go into my Venus files, so to speak.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine named Raymond Keller here.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's very famous. He's called the Venusian historian. He's written 8 books, and he's working on his 9th book about Venus. And he's written this.
You'll have to introduce us.
Yeah, well, he's coming to my conference, and I'd love for you to interview him. He's an amazing guy.
I'd love to.
He's kind of a bookworm, but what happened was, for him, he arranged for me to meet this woman here. This is Commander Oral Reigns, and she's been introduced to Earth. She has an Earth life. Now, you'll notice they wear a raspberry beret, and they have a bee pin on their head. So he met her through his original contact was with this woman named Dolores Berrios, and that's a story in itself that could go into a tremendous amount of information. So what happened to me was the Queen. Let's go to Aura Range. Yeah. So so I was able to meet her, and she allowed me to interview her. I asked. I've been able. People don't really grasp this. I'm trashed all the time, so I mean, I'm sure David gets a lot of slack about
Yeah,
Jesus.
absolutely. And so
So
do I. And
so you have these very strong legs, and she has an Earth life. She
right,
and one person discovered it and just said he'd keep it secret, and the other one, um, is kind of negative and hostile, and he's put it out there a little bit, but no one will ever touch her. If she has to, she would leave her Earth life if it became unattainable. So
right,
that's the Commander Aura Reigns, and she allowed me a series of interviews uh,
right.
right here, but this one here. Um, so this is an interview, and she answers some questions actually about Jesus Christ. And in
Right.
this interview, I'm kind of like someone interview, like a musician interviewing Paul McCartney. It was the first time I was very excited that
Yeah.
I would have this thing. She looks very Earth. She wears makeup, and she's normal
Yeah.
Earth person,
Right.
except her hands. She has no fingerprints. So
Really.
yeah, so she's a six-dimensional commander, and she changes her look throughout history. And this is Raymond Keller here, and the guy
Right.
who took the video, his name Alon. He's very famous in
Okay.
in the extraterrestrial community. Now this is
Right.
and so Prince had a contact. So here's a picture. You notice her legs then? So
Yeah.
check this picture out of her. Look at her legs here. See how they're kind of thick?
Yeah.
This is in 1954 at Giant Rock. She,
Wow.
her hair was dyed, or she was wearing a wig. I don't know, but her
Right.
hair was extremely luxurious. So this is
Right.
her then. Here's another image of her in 1954, and this is the same woman. She looks a
Wow.
little different, slightly
Yeah.
different. I mean, it
Yeah.
is 60 years later, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but they can slightly alter their genetics.
So that's a painting, not a picture, right?
This is a picture at Giant Rock. She was
Okay.
she was standing with on the left here is Long John Nebel, the Art
Okay.
Bell of his day, who interviewed
Yeah.
Howard.
Yeah. I remember him.
Okay, so that's a picture of her, and she has some other stuff. So I have a book. It's called My Friends from Venus in my book section there. But so from this contact, it was difficult for me to. I thought, wow, I said, I couldn't believe it. What do I do? And I asked them a bunch of questions, and this is in my book.
Right.
I was like, how am I going to get this out? How are people going to take it? And they go,
Right.
give it a try.
You're
And
right. Of course.
I just attacked. No one's grasping that this is actually the first extraterrestrial recorded.
Did you take pictures of her fingerprints so you could
No,
demonstrate?
no. Her hand is soft as a baby. That's one of the things about them.
Wow.
They have a technology called the Vril technology. Now,
Real. I've heard that too somewhere.
okay, so the Vril technology is a technology from 18 million years ago. In the center of the galaxy, there's the Pleiadians and the Aldebarans had developed a technology which was they were using it to hybridize planets. They were going around like marauders to world,
Okay.
hybridizing humans with animals. Really, they don't do it anymore, but it was pretty egregious, and they actually did that on Venus. So what happened was the original Venusians that we would know are called the Norcans, and they're from a planet called Tau Ceti. And about 25 million years ago, their atmosphere was leaving, and they sent, I think, 4 or 5 spaceships. 2 landed on Venus, 2 crash landed on Mars, and 1 went, they don't even know where. So the Martians eventually lost their memory, and they of who they were and stuff. But the original Norcans appealed to the native population of Venus, which is a large bumblebee, and,
Oh,
and they
wow.
allowed them to live there. And it was a prehistoric planet at that point. And we fast forward to 18 million years ago, the Pleiadians and Aldebarans come in and go, oh, humans and bees, what a great farm worker. So they hybridized the bees, and it was kind of a crazy time, and I'll share another amazing picture here. But so
Please.
so the bee so actually there was something I won't go into. It's in Raymond Keller's book here, but I'm going to go Lady Columba here. So this is another woman that I have not met, but I wrote the precursor for her book, and
You've communicated with her.
no, well, no, Raymond communicates with her, but
Okay.
I met her. Now, again, you see the raspberry beret. Can you think?
Yeah.
Can you think of a musician that might have met a Venusian?
Yeah, yeah, of course, Prince.
There you go. She wore a raspberry beret, and that's when he changed his name to a symbol. So
Right,
there's a little. They have a gold bee pin, and she handed him a book. This woman was in India.
right.
They're both translated. This woman was born in 1902, died in 1995, and in 1954 she was taken to the moon. Or
Who's the
1950s.
gentleman in the background?
That's just some guy it's at a trade show,
Okay,
and they have a very special light in their eye. This is an Indian woman who was born in Rishikesh or Hardwar,
okay.
and she was up in the mountains guiding the East India Company. And there was a beggar on the road who was ill. I need help. Take me down. And it was, it was a regular hard day's hike down the hill. And the
Right.
East India Company said, "You come with us. Leave that beggar." She said, "No, he's hurt." They said, "You won't get paid." She says, "I don't care. You go on." She nursed him gently down the hill over 4 days. And when they got
Wow.
to the bottom, he said, "I'm not a beggar and I'm not ill. I'm a master, and I'm taking you to Venus. You have great
Oh,
compassion."
wow.
So she became a dual citizen at some point in her life. In
Wow.
the 1900s, during the Depression, she was serving on Earth in the Christian socialist movement, overcoming the extreme poverty and the charity work. And this woman went to India, Lady Columba. She was known
Right.
as Annabelle Krebs. And so in 19
And so what does the symbol of the red beret represent?
it represents revolution, a
Okay.
change. So if we go to the history of let's see it. I'm not sure what you can see here. I'm going to share with you Lady Columba's book, and I wrote
Okay.
the preface for this book. And so this book, that's a picture of her from there, and she
Right.
handed him went in 2017 when he released his first two books. The first one I showed you, Venus
Yeah.
Rising, and the other one,
Yeah.
she presented him with this book, and he made it modern for modern day times.
Right.
And what happened was, she was telling her friends, "I'm not going to die." In the 90s, she says, "I'm not going to die. I'm going to go back to Venus."
Right.
And this is what happened. Before she died, they took her DNA, they created a cloned body for her, they downloaded her memories, and this is what happened. She was resurrected in a new body on the moon base called Clarion. Many people think it's a planet, but it's the backside of the moon. It's a moon base, and
Okay.
it's kind of like a thing. So I'm going to show you one other cool picture in here.
So
But
there's this theory that our reincarnation and our process is a result of um, the deletes or the elites on our planet that are creating that.
there are certain aspects of that, but look, you make you make an agreement. The Earth is a
Yeah.
school of history. Your soul makes an agreement to go through a series of incarnations to
Right.
to graduate in what's called the Earth School or the third dimension. And
Right.
there are those who've gone through it many times, and they're wanderers. They go to different worlds, and they come to help different worlds through that process. So. This is another interesting picture. This is a Venusian that met George Adamski in the desert. So Raymond just has tremendous stuff. He meets them all.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that. That's amazing.
So I'm going to show you this other cool picture that you're going to like because it.
Please.
And he's revealing some very cool stuff, and we're going to release some of his books and share
I'd
some.
love to interview him, but also you and him together.
We'd
one
love
of
to
these
do
days.
that. We can do us together, and then we can do him. So,
Yeah.
so I'm going to get to this thing. So she goes up to the moon she learns about. They take her up. They take her out of her room. They take her on the Earth. They test her, and then they take her to the moon, and she begins
Yeah.
to live a life on the moon. And then there is a future event, and the solar hierarchy on a parallel Earth. There are 8 Earths, not timelines, but 8 actual Earths taking place.
Actual physical Earths.
Yeah, I guess this is unclear, but
Yeah.
Raymond, as a time traveler himself, can explain it. So,
Right.
In this meeting, she was allowed to attend. There was Commander Rains, and here's the image. So, I'm gonna share this with you. I'm gonna zoom in on it. I think I can do that. Oh yeah, I can do it down here. So she was able to. Yeah.
I read a book a long time ago called Leviathan.
Well, that was the name of one of their of this space station.
Right.
It's around moon. It's around. There's a cloaked moon around Venus called Neith. They
Right.
guesstimate it's there. So she's sitting. Here's the woman I met, Commander Aura Rains, in 1954. She was meeting the founding fathers, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. I said, what did you teach them? Liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice, she said.
Wow.
And
Isn't that amazing? Because David just produced the Washington frequencies, or what he calls the Washington frequencies. And because there's this dichotomy, I guess, in the community, in the spiritual community, which says George Washington and the forefathers are negative, and well,
that's nonsense. It's absolutely
yeah, exactly.
So what it is, and you have to kind of you have to hold your apperception and understand certain things. So in his Vivisect Pisces and the obelisk work that David did there, he's revealing. Originally, the Freemasons were a positive group. They were the resistance movement. It was taken over and corrupted, and it became.
It would have to be that way. It would have to be, because the Freemasons are an ancient order, going back to the Melchizedek order, correct?
Yeah, Valiant Thor asked me to join the Order of Melchizedek, and in Las Vegas, a Venusian popped up in the front of the room and put his hand on my head as I said the oath, that I felt a stream of light come in. So this is a being from Saturn. He's a Ganesha being.
Okay.
This is a being that's kind of like a turtle. They have their own oxygen here. He has like diamond eyes.
Right.
This being is kind of like I forget what one he's from. He's in our system. He's closest you can come is a Wookiee. This is in 1954. This is a blue avian being, another being that was created in the shift. And this is kind of like what some of the Venusians, when they were altered by the Vril technology of the Aldebarans that converted humans into bees. Now, for the most part, the bees and the humans have gone back to their original genetics with some enhancements. Right. In other words, the humans have more of a spiritual connective. They have a queen of Venus, and they work. So in this council meeting, and this is Vorton. Vorton stands for Venus Observation Ranger. He's taller, about 12 feet. So she's normal, a little smaller.
Well, as my understanding is, a human being has the DNA of every species that exists, so they can have the qualities of any species that exists. And from the knowing of the Hindu gods, because there's certain Hindu gods that are man and animal, there must have been a time period when there was man-animal intermingling, if I may call it that.
That was part of the Syrian shift. Now, I don't know the whole history of genetics, if there were actually man animals. I think that there was a lot which they talk about in the book where Alon explains to me, and Alon is 2,400 years old. He was born in the first Persian Empire under Darius the Great as a beekeeper under the Zoroastrian tradition. He had one incarnation and boom to Venus, and he's been in charge of the Earth Security Detachment. Was
Right.
amazing when he took that video. He breathed once, and it was like it was on a tripod. For 28 minutes, he was absolutely incredible, and
That's
I
amazing.
really want to hang out with that guy some. Uh, but from my understanding, the genetics, what happened was is there was some giant wars that took place a long time ago, and in order to get over these wars, in the war for genetics, that the reptilians like to consider themselves the creators and then before anyone else, and they may have been, everything life evolved from the sea. Maybe reptilians were the first intelligent life form, but they kind of stagnated in certain elements of them. But what I understand is there are many different genetic, some people call them genetic farmer races, but they're trying to improve their genetics and to achieve a divine ability in the third dimension. And they were having wars, and they literally are Star Wars. They blew up planets like we, you know, you know, toilet paper, whatever. They were blowing up worlds. So they finally had these councils and said, look, we have to tolerate each other, and we can't
Right.
do this. So now the reptilians actually sit down at a table with the good guys, and they tolerate each other because the good guys do not will try as hard as possible not to commit murder or death. But if in defense of themselves, if need to be for any circumstances, they will respond with tremendous force. Now, spiritually, there's a time, and there's some stuff coming out that Raymond's going to reveal about one of the lost gospels that's going to be revealed. That when Christ was here, certain conversations were literally with the demonic force that lived inside the earth. There's both good Agarthans, and there was a very strong, and still is to a certain extent, heavy duty reptilian presence. And they actually are just like gangs. They just parasite off the earth. And when they come in, they try to keep the frequency of the planet low. Because as soon as we raise our consciousness, they can't be here because there's nothing for them. But
Right.
they bring with them other races, non-organic, non-human parasitic entities that invisibly clasp into your head in certain instances, and there's all kinds of levels of this demon force or jinn, and they actually capture races and hybridize a mantis being with a gecko, and these mantis beings have natural affinities to create and close portals. So they create
Right.
to make them slaves. So slavery, and it's just kind of a negative thing. It's very
Yeah.
kind of hard to grasp. But uh, so what they did was
Yeah.
they said, let's get together so we could stop fighting and create this beautiful new race that we can all have access to the genetics. And so some of the genetic harvesting that's going on is in a positive way with their beings that come in incarnation in earth, and they agree
Yeah.
to be taken up and abducted or whatever, and gently or whatever use their genetics. But that's over now. That experiment, that access to the human genome, from what I understand, now humans are standing on their own free, and the galactic confederations, not just of this galaxy, but
Right.
of multiple galaxies. They call it the Grand Council, United Council of Worlds. It has an enforcement capability of multidimensional that no world would go against the wrath of that technology, and they're pretty clear cut about it. They have in other words, they have very strong laws against certain things like rape or murder, and the consequences are extreme, and it really stops it. We're kind of like, oh, let's not kill the cabal members, but some of them have violated things and they need to be arrested and certain things like that. But so
Right.
the genetic thing is coming to a head now. Humanity is in the divine image of the Creator, and we are great. We are beyond a lot of these races. We will grow once we begin to flourish, but right now we've been suppressed by a bully, an 800-pound gorilla of reptilian influence that has, through genetic hybridization of the human species, placed their elite 1% half-human reptilians in positions of power. And so they have.
Do we know who they are, like who exactly they are that are these beings, and like who are our allies is my number one question. We keep talking about the cabal, but who are the allies? There's people in power that are allies too, aren't there?
Yeah, of course. They have different influences here in a very positive way. I'm going to bring up a video real quick here, and I'm going to show you the reality. Sure. It's not just, this isn't shape-shifting. This is actual human hybridization. Now, not every single hybridized human, and of course this goes into the levels. They had these full-blown reptilians, and then there's this whole lineage that lived inside the earth that controlled all the world's resources, all the world's money. All of, and human resources include humans.
And as I understand it, it was interested in our gold.
Well, it's a complex, and I don't know everything about this, but I'm going to show you one particular video here. This is the famous reptilian eyelid, and this is not a shape shifting. This is a physical attribute. This is what happens in these, you know, child sacrificing, these reptilian things. We can go way back in our history, and they're all throughout history. I have another video about the Nazi Black Sun group that, you know, they were in Egypt. This group has taken over and hijacked humanity. So this guy, you know, he says he's going to show you his eyes, and he says, Illuminati bloodlines, I want to kill my eyes. So not every single person that's been raped by a Rothschild or some of these coven leaders, or they call them the Olympians or the Titans, and these are the ones that control the world, and they look down on humanity. They manage humanity like we manage cattle and chicken, and they actually eat it and that kind of stuff.
The ones I saw were really tall and really white and really thin, and they seemed like wise beings. That's all I can refer to them as.
Some of them are good, so you can't judge all. Not all grays are natives. So here, he's going to show his eyelid. A lot of Hollywood people have this too, and they're susceptible to possession. So you see the little eyelid go over. It's like a crocodile underwater. It actually creates an eye of Mordor, and you see this all the time in media. And there's a YouTube channel called Soul Base. So and here he says something. You can see it on the other eye.
Yeah.
Watch this. See that? See that? You might need to hit him, man. Fuck you think they gonna do if they see me with this shit? I want to kill my eyes.
I want to kill my eyes. So, obviously, not every single person, but I've already exposed that Obama is Hitler's grandson. I can prove that through images and the genealogy. Angela Merkel is Hitler's daughter. Theresa May is Hitler's daughter. And there's another girl from Eastern Europe, Dahlia, and he probably had many others. So these are. This is a group, the Earth-based group, that kind of mingles and has these secret things and was building all these underground places for them to go after they destroyed the surface. They're called the Black Sun, and they orchestrate war after war through the generals. And this is the Satanist force on Earth. And they're very conniving. They live a long time. They know humans' mindset, genealogy. They created the magic money magic system of Babylon, debt, slavery. to control people. And they put us in a slavery system where all we can do is work to survive, instead of the harmonious spirit of cooperation as intended and
Right.
as taught by Jesus Christ, and holding things in common. And if we would follow Christ's message to do unto others as we would have done unto ourselves, and realize that we're all children of a living, loving God, we're all family. We can disagree, but let's not hurt or harm each other. So,
Yeah.
this is, some of the teachings that,
Well, they're universal teachings on some level.
and the Egyptians, the Atlanteans, these have always been kept alive.
Yeah.
The Masons were keeping some of this, and there's other shamans in South America that are teaching some of this, although some of the shamans were very much, they got a little dark with some of the Velociraptor type reptilians and sacrificing humans. So what they do is they create these cauldrons of death and suffering, and do sacrifice of false flags, of shootings, of bombings, of the World Trade Center, to create fear in a frequency, to put people into negativity. And
what would be what would be their benefit of that?
The benefit of that is to bring in more negative beings. And there's some of these beings, like Mike Pence is dead now, but he was famous for raping little children, little boys, and sodomizing them and strangling them. So all of them are doing that. Hillary Clinton has also been killed. And when they die, they have to cut off the head and take out the heart, because they can reconstitute the body. They have lots of clones, but eventually that soul is rounded up by the galactic forces now, taken to Saturn, and then usually is processed into the central sun, where it basically is dissolved and that soul no longer exists. And that's a very rare demon that does that. But a lot of them are going to have a lot of karma to fill. And even the humans, for us, we have to pray. And there's two things about God that I think is important. One is praying, and that is talking to God in the innermost chamber of our heart, secretly and privately, and asking for truth, the one truth. And the other is listening to God, and that's to meditate, to meditere, to wait in the middle. And what do you wait in the middle of? Is the breath, the science of Kriya Yoga. So I met Babaji. I spent probably 20 minutes with him, and I didn't realize it till it was probably 38 or 40, and I dropped to my knees crying, because I was so, I was like, I didn't realize it. I was too, I just wasn't tuned in, and I'm still a little impatient and move fast, but so.
But it's in the patience that things seem to always fall in place.
Yeah, that's a hard one down here. We see iniquity. We don't have. I don't have patience for people. I mean, there's this medical. I'm not going to ruin this by saying the word, but there's a medical farce going on that's causing people to voluntarily take a bullet to the head. And make no mistake, there's genetic altering going on still. It's criminal. It's outlawed. And these beings will see trials against humanity at some point. There probably is going to be, unfortunately, unless we can turn it around and people can wake up, much more death and destruction for a scourge upon humanity that was created by certain individuals that literally want to depopulate the planet. And that's what people must realize. The governments are controlled by this. So the governments must step down completely. And I believe that's going to happen through the financial system. The Federal Reserve shut down last Friday. They are broke. The governments have no money whatsoever. They cannot even wage war. They are taking America's food. The government says you have to sell us your crops if you want your government subsidy. They're paying a little above market price, and then they're burning the food. They have a lot of plans, to move forward with this depopulation agenda, and that is to create chaos by creating false There it is. So we, the children of the light, those who have faith and believe in the truth of God and the ascended masters and the nature of the eternal life of the universe and living in the, you know, Jesus talks about the fifth dimension where, you know, there is no death. Death will be conquered. We will live where David went
Right.
permanently, and that's an evolutionary step that the entire planet's not ready to take. So everyone thinks, oh, we're ascending to the fifth dimension. Yeah, eventually. We're pond scum on the third right now,
Right.
and some of us are moving into the fourth. So as the technology of the fourth dimension, which is time, becomes known, we will see the Akashic records, we'll know our true history, we'll have contact with our space brothers, and we'll take over that moon base that's controlled by the secret space program Nazis, who have been trading humans and stuff like that. They're going to be removed, and we will have bases on the front side of the moon. They're preparing for that. They told me they're preparing for human colonies on Mars. They're already clearing the reptilians and the other hostile forces on the Mars and liberating those humans that have been taken up there and used as slaves. And it's a very disturbing thing for us to consider, but we have to realize that there is true evil and that it has had its day here, and for the most part humanity's frequency is rising, but it's not to the level or the gnosis that's going to be required. It's going to take a lot of humility, a lot of imagination, and a lot of love and forgiveness for those people that are there's basically, we have sinners and then we have wicked, perfect wicked, and they're very organized, they're very powerful, and they are not giving up. And the solution, Shiraz,
Yeah.
we are powerful. We do
Amen.
not have to resist them. We don't need to fight. We don't need to protest. We need to ignore their orders.
Right.
And we're going to have to start going into stores. You know, I call them the store horse. Put that mask up over your nose. No, you don't have a right to do that. The government made a law. No, he made a mandate. The government can't make a law. In America, we have the Civil Rights Act, and that was to allow black people. You can't say, "Oh, a black person can't come in here."
Right.
You can't say no service to a handicapped person. You have public access. If you're a women's club, only women can come in. Or if you're the League of Women Voters, you have to join that club. You can restrict that. Or if you're a Masonic Lodge, you can restrict that. But any public access, you can stand there and say, "Call the police." And every person that I've heard that's been arrested, they don't even file charges. They just release them. Catch and
Right.
release. So we're going to need massive numbers of people going into stores saying, "I'm not putting on a mask." You know, we need to just start, you know, and
Right.
we'll have people in the parking lot. The cops are here. People go to 20 businesses in the same day and just start showing up and run the cops ragged. Because in Italy, what they did was they just opened up the restaurants. They said, "Restaurante." You know, you've been to Italy and in Spain and
Yeah.
Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Everyone's in the restaurant business. So they just said, "We're not doing it." They opened up the restaurants and the cops gave up in 24 hours. And like that, restaurants were open. So
Right.
America's a way behind the scene on the resistance, but we do have a very strong electronic fence. And I'm
Right.
sure David knows about
Yeah.
the little microchip in those cell phone towers that say COVID-19. And people, if you didn't know, COVID-19, what does that mean? It means coronavirus vaccination ID. So that's what it is. It's a social monitoring system. You've seen the images now where magnets are sticking. It's a heavy
Yeah.
metal. This gene splicing, this poison, this people are dying right, left, and center, and it's going to happen. Those people who are so proud they took it, unfortunately, I feel very sorry for them because they're going to become ill over time. A lot of people will. It's designed to cause changes, heart attacks, strokes. It's an unholy scourge placed upon mankind by a force that hates mankind and accuses mankind before God, and that day of justice is coming. But
Amen. That.
yeah, so that's my story. It's kind of been of an activist in health and a healer and working with pyramids and technologies. I use Tesla coils, laser beams, and all
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
on my website.
Tell us a little bit about your technology now and how that came to be.
Well, that came through a series of technologies through Semyasi. She was giving Fred. The first one was this.
Right.
It actually this came from Dwal Kul, a Tibetan, one of Fred Bell's ascended masters. Who is Dwal Kul is the lower aspect of the Count Saint Germain. And he said, make a gold pyramid. So a steel frame, gold plated pyramid. Gold has a balancing thing on the brain, and it calms the emotional brain mind in the hypothalamus. Now, I have another one. You plate with copper, and copper resonates with the adrenal glands. So this gives you emotional calming and centering, and then the copper stimulates the adrenals to give you physical energy. Then I have another one. I add silver as another plating, so it's orgone: nickel, gold, copper, silver. So those have a frequency, and guess what? Here we're looking here. Where's my pineal gland and my pituitary? Somewhere around the king's chamber, right?
Right,
So,
right.
pyramid, fire in the middle, the living word of God, the flame of truth is in here. So what this does is this has a balancing effect on the body. In 1979, I was 19 or 20. We went to UCLA. Thelma Moss, who was developing the Carillion photography, we went in there and we did some photography with the pyramids. But they had a psychic in that day who had it was about a 10-foot plate, and the wall was sealed off. You couldn't see on the other side. And on one side of the room, there was a woman with migraine headaches, and she had her hands on the plate. And on the other side of the wall was a psychic, and she had her hands on the plate. The psychic was sending her healing energy, and they had mapped out where the corresponding points, and the energy was going from this girl's hands to the head point on the woman with the migraine headaches. Then we put the pyramid on, and it basically increased it. So what happens is the pyramid provides a balance. So the hormones are fluctuating wildly. Thoughts, food, nature, environment, toxins, attrition from tires, chemtrails now. I mean, it's just insane how many microparticle dust that everyone has within them. These companies of Kellogg's and Bayer and pharmaceutical companies are all Nazi Black Sun operations owned, and they're designed to poison and kill you. You must be strong. They pay for organic food. This label. You need GMO certified organic. Non-GMO certified, that's the only one, because you're not getting organic food. You are getting poisoned, and this is combined to cause detriment in the brain. So, like aspartame, they put this in a lot of foods now. They don't even call it that, but it causes all kinds of problems. One of the women I interviewed, Betty Martini, she must be 75, close to 80. Amazing, brilliant doctor, exposing how many people just take them off of aspartame and they can recover. Yeah. So aspartame is made by little microorganisms that eat genetically altered food. That's owned by Dick Cheney. He's dead now. So there's so much going on in the positive light that's coming to the people's awareness. And what we need now is we need leadership. We need real governments who can make ethical decisions to outlaw. We outlawed DDT in the 60s. Well, guess what? They took it to Africa and to South America, and they're still spraying it. So we now have Monsanto, spraying malathion, and that's a normal thing. And they take your food, folks. You didn't know this? It's called food irradiation. Look it up. In America, they take your food from the farm in Sacramento, and they take that food in a truck, and they put it into there's a warehouse. It's got lead walls. They pour the truck in, then they remove the lead walls, and your food is irradiated with radiation. You're eating irradiated food. That's the simple fact and truth. So a lot of the food, and it's also gassed. So we have so much toxins. So this dark force knows that what they're trying to do is just to lower the frequency and the body's ability. So pure water, pure drinking, and utilizing the pyramid technology. So one of the next devices that was created was this device, and this was given by the Pleiadian Semyasi. And you'll notice it's a fishing line, and a wire goes down there into the plug, and it's only the ground. So this, you don't realize it, but on your power lines there's a subcarrier frequency of ELF waves, and this is mind control. So this blocks that. Okay, right. This device is called a Fire Star. That's the new Mini. And then this is a MIDI Fire Star. And we use different stones in the center. And you see these little discs here. Yeah. And we connect a Tesla coil here to this. And this becomes electrified, and it creates a spring. Now, this is a manifestation device. This is part of what the Pleiadians call divine intervention. And in here is a mixing chamber. So if I want to have an experience, if I want to know a book, I'll put a book in here, and I'll put this at the foot of my bed, and I'll dream about it. It's kind of like a transference of information. Now this device is the Omnion. It goes over the master crystal, and it's on a pulley over there. So this raises and lowers. As we get to the full moon, this is called the MIDI Fire Star, and we connect this to a Tesla coil.
Okay.
So that has pyramids, and there's different stones in there of different colors. So we get the 7 colors, and you can have these made in even higher end crystals or even gemstones if you want. And then this one is given this divine intervention to help us help ourselves. And so all of this combined with this one create a vortex. So when we connect the Tesla coil, it becomes very strong. So this raises and lowers over the crystal during the full moon cycle. It's very
I can feel it from here.
Yeah, and then up at the ceiling, and then as we get closer to the full moon, it comes down and sits right over this.
Right.
So what that does is it creates a capacitor.
Vortex.
And the idea is that you lay down. I lay down on the couch, and you go through what's called the secret. And the secret is a manifestation process.
Tell us about the secret.
We all know that we're affecting things. We're actually, if you could look at us, you're a plasma light body. It looks like an egg, and there's various aspects that are the various bodies. And it's like this, it's like air, it's like incense floating off you, like little waves of energy. So you're interacting with the world around you. You are a fractal of the whole of God. And that divine mind, that unity, you actually are your brother. You are this, you are everything. And yet you have an individuated consciousness. So how do we manifest things? You don't just go, oh, I want a car, I'm going to make it happen. Ascended masters who have achieved that level can declare something, and it can become so. But or they can literally become a plant or a tree or whatever. So
I saw Sai Baba's picture when you were scanning the room. Have you met her?
That's another interesting story for me. Sai Baba.
Well, when we were since we're talking about manifestation, I thought that was kind of.
Yeah. Here's a little Sai Baba Vibhuti.
Oh wow.
So Sai Baba, I was always interested in him. He always spoke so brilliantly and never did everything. I thought, wow, this guy he's an avatar. He's a master teacher. You get lost, the masters come to their own culture in their own time, and he's definitely worthy of paying attention to and being a supreme master. I believe he's one of the Trinity teachers who comes in the 3 forms of incarnation. And Shirdi Sai Baba Satya Sai Baba, and his next incarnation will be Prema Sai Baba. And
Right.
so this guy gave me some vibhuti and said, rub it on my back. What's this? He goes, oh, this is from Sai Baba. It's supposed to heal me. And I go, well, okay. I put it on. Nothing happened. But so I followed him, and for years and years, I wanted to go see him in India. I finally had gathered enough money to go, and I had a surgery, and I took all my money, and I couldn't go. I'd made friends with a famous basketball player named Michael Dickerson. He was with the Runnin' Rebels and the Grizzlies. And he says, Rob, you're going to go see Sai Baba? I said, I don't have any money. But what happened was the night before that was the first night.
Wrong thing to say.
Yeah, well, the first night I went out after I'd been bedridden in the hospital for 20 days and at my home. The first thing I went to was some musician friends were playing at an artist house who made that Buddha behind me here. And he had a Sai Baba image. And I was in this little hallway, and I said to Baba, I said, Baba, I don't have any money. I was hoping to see you this year. I said, he always talked about an interview versus an interview, because an interview is very hard to get with him. So I said, I guess I'm going to have to wait for an interview and not an interview. I won't get to see you in this lifetime. And the next day, the guy called up and goes, are we going to go see Sai Baba? And I said, well, I don't have any money. He goes, that's okay, I'll pay. So he bought 2 first-class round-trip tickets, and before we left, he gave me $5,000 cash. And we
Oh my God.
we went to India, and he left after 3 days. He had some scene with his pit bull, but a very generous guy. I was left alone at the ashram, and I was there for about 20 days. I did the meditation, and every day he'd come out, and you did all those things in the program, and it was, he literally called me to his side, and on the 3rd day I was there, he was going around in a golf cart. He left, and everyone's there, so everyone's walking, and I was walking back, and all of a sudden, I see a crowd screaming from way at the other end. He had already gone to the golf cart to somewhere, and he was coming back to the place where he was, where we had just left. And he's walking up, and there's a crowd of guards trying to keep up. And I didn't realize it, but the throngs were coming behind me to rush him. And I'm not really into
Right.
personality worship or anything like that. So they were jostling, and the guards surrounded me. So I was there with Sai Baba in the thing, and I said to him directly, I said, thank you for bringing me to your side. You know, I probably should have done something more devotional, or, you know, touched his feet or said something.
Right.
But when I was looking at him and I was surrounded, I was like this. He was kind of looking up like this, and he's like smiling, kind of like Loki. He's like, he goes, you don't know what's coming. And all of a sudden, the crowd started jostling me. So he basically said hello. And I said, I kind of telepathically said, hey, thanks for the free first-class ticket and $5,000.
Yeah, right.
So the masters can make things happen. And
Of course.
one of the things that the masters from the hierarchy of light, and there's many different confederations. Raymond had met the Queen of Venus. That's a picture that I showed you previously. And
Yeah.
she came to pick him up in China in 2012, and he met her and goes, oh, and she says, I'm kind of hungry. I'm in my etheric double now. My body is actually at the Lopnur rocket base in China. She was manifesting 2 bodies like Sai Baba does at the same time. So he got her vegetarian
Right.
pizza. They walked back to his hotel. She goes, would you like to see an ascension party? He says, does that mean I'm going to Venus? She said, yes. And the next day, she picked him up, and she activated her nimbus, and it became like a little sphere, a bubble, and with 2 seats. And they lifted off from the top of the building, and they sped towards the Tibetan plateau. And when they got to the Tibetan
Wow.
plateau, there was an island, and on this island there was a monastery, and in front of the monastery there was a series of tents with a bunch of monks, and there were 5,000 Venusians landing in their other orbs. They have these little device.
Wow.
They're called a nimbus. That's where Harry Potter got that name, the nimbus. And when the nimbus is at rest and parked, it opens up like a lotus flower. So when you see all the Buddhists floating in the sky in the lotus flower,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
In
a
the
Venusian.
lotus, that's a real thing.
That's a Venusian nimbus. So
Right.
as he came in, he saw the mothership Isis, 145 yards long. That's approximately, you know, 400 and something feet. And then Valiant Thor's Victor 1 ship, which is 100 yards or 300 feet in diameter. And they came and they landed, and he met a woman who he had known in his first incarnation on Earth when he was the poet scribe Virgil Publicus Moro. He was a scribe for the first seizure. We know him as the poet Virgil, and he wrote some very famous poems about his encounters with a Venusian woman named Lady Ankara. She didn't reveal that she was Venusian. They became lovers, and so he came to Mount Shasta and actually met her in the 80s when she was bilocated. She'd already ascended. She was a Mormon Saint Annalise Guerin. She was excommunicated from the Mormon Church for teaching the truth that Joseph Smith talked about, the importance and equality of women. And she was the commander of the spaceship. She came out, she shook his hand, and her and the Queen and about, I don't know how many, but a lot of them went to Venus. And then they went to the temple city of Azure on the surface, and in a dome called the Zither Dome, and they watched as 13 representatives from the higher dimensions floated down with these giant angel wings, and as they landed they became physical, and the ascended master El Moria, who we would know as Lord Dismas, the one who died with Christ on the cross. He is the regent of Venus. Queens come and go, but he's been the regent of Venus. And
Right.
and he did the ceremony, and they showed a giant hologram of the then Queen of Venus, and she was from China. Her name is Lady Ma Zhu. It's a famous story. She calmed the Jade Ocean as a young girl. She rescued two brothers who were in the sea with her etheric double. And she was taken to Venus a couple of years later and became eventually the queen. And she ascended to the seventh dimension, what we call the pleroma, and the grand central sun. And they announced the new queen is Lady Orda, sitting right next to Raymond.
Oh, wow.
So she said, "You want to stay here?"
How amazing is that?
So he stayed there for 2 months and got to look at the Akashic records, and he enjoys intimate communication with them, and they're all in his books. And you can meet him at the conference if you guys want to come. He's amazing. We're going to have some very special, we've had some Venusians.
Yeah, I'd love to come. It's just this whole idea of traveling right now, and traveling to the U.S. for me as a Muslim is even more daunting.
I know. Are you allowed to come now or no?
No.
Someone needs to get arrested. A lot of people. I think that's coming soon, but we'll have to see how long this farce can last. So, Raymond's an amazing guy. I'll definitely connect you with him.
I'd love to. So, a couple more questions.
Sure.
What or who is Kohan?
Kohan?
Yes.
A Kohan of the Ray? So these are ascended masters.
Sorry for pronouncing it wrong.
Oh, I don't know. Kohan. I'm not sure. So, you talk about ascended master Hilarion?
Well, I joined your inner circle, and so because I didn't know where to begin or where to start or what to do, I started reading stuff, and this was one thing that I was reading about.
Did you get all the links in that? You've gone to that thing that has book upon book after recording, right?
Yeah, I just don't know where to start or what to do or where to go, and I want to recommend it to everyone, but it's just so much.
Right, I'm going to be that really needs work. In fact, I've been trying to get the guys to give me a page, but I have a lot more amazing stuff on Christ too, which with Raymond coming out, I'm going to be working on that. I'm learning a lot myself.
Are Raymond's books there?
Raymond's books are not there. They have to be
Okay.
paid for individually. Those are my books, but all those other books
Can
in
you
there.
send me a link? Can you send me a link and so I can?
Oh, well, they're on my. They're on my. Oh, you're from Canada, so you should probably
Right.
get them on Amazon. Go to Venus Rising, Dr. Raymond Keller.
Okay.
Anyone who's overseas should get the books because, I mean, I tried to ship to England. It's $63 for shipping 3 books. So at this time of the COVID, it's unrealistic for me to ship them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but so he's written these books. One is about the overall history of Venus and Earth and goes into all that information, and he hides a lot of metaphysical information. He puts a pop cultural image and
Right.
picture, and then he goes into stuff. And then the second book is Rockets to Venus. He exposes all the lies, shows the evidence of what they said, the papers that scientists, very thick book, just saying that the government knows Venus. They can't go to Venus. They can't land. I think they let them take a picture once, but they don't let them know anything about Venus. And Mars is all probably fake anyway. So what they're doing there. So they're just starting to release. The Navy, and they're starting to call them a threat. Well, this woman became the queen. Had ascended from Earth in 1585, Lady Orda, and you can hear her voice messages to me. You know, I could even play one if you want. We may not have enough time. If you want, I could give you that. So I'll play this message for you from
Yeah.
the
Please.
Queen of Venus, and then I got some pictures while it's playing.
Yeah.
I'm going to, and so this message was kind of got me excited because I met him in 2018, and I did a conference. He was coming in 2019 to Mount Shasta, or 2018. So I met him in late 2017.
Right.
He kept blowing my mind, and then in 2018, she sent this message to be played on a radio show, and it was on the Jeff Rentz radio show, so I'm going to play this. She has a Spanish accent because she was born in Spain, and I'm going to show you some pictures of her,
Right.
Raymond, when he was 18.
Right.
Dear friends of Venus, the solar hierarchy of light of your sister planet Abihar extends joyous greetings to the inhabitants of the Earth. This is Queen Orda of Abihar speaking to you on a recorded message delivered to our emissary, the incarnation of Publius Virgilius Maro, the one commonly known amongst you as the Cosmic Ray, Dr. Raymond Keller, the author of the Venus Rising trilogy of books, on Sunday, 10 February 2018.
Notice her
You
sandals.
should be receiving this message on the night of Valentine's Day, Wednesday, 14 February 2018, over Rain's Radio. Our love and thanks are also extended to our cosmic brothers Jeff Ramsey, Frank Chile, and all the other brothers and sisters working diligently behind the scenes at Rain's Radio, bringing to the public's attention the truth that is out there, the truth about intelligent life forms feeling the immensity of space in their visitations to Earth in the Venturas, beam ships, swaps, Merkabas, and other ethereal star vessels that your military and political authorities have erroneously referred to as unidentified flying objects. The planet Abihar, or Venus as you know it, represents the highest manifestation of love and peace in the solar system. Your ancestors from the remote past recognized our world as the celestial sign for the goddess of love and beauty, as well as the herald of peace and understanding. On this night of Saint Valentine, it is duly recognized by the solar hierarchy of light and placed on Abihar that a message of love and peace is exactly what your world's perplexed inhabitants require at this time for the purposes of securing their own mutual development and bringing about the long prophesied Aquarian age of enlightenment and universal understanding. It saddens us that your governments and religions so burdening you with endless laws and ordinances, completely ignoring the sound advice of the Master Teacher Jesus the Christ, sent among you 2 millennia ago, who taught the simple principle of unfailing kindness and love for the infinite Creator, as expressed and manifested through love for your own divine essence in the embodiment of the celestial spark that indwells and permeates all of your neighbors. Remember that the angels of the celestial worlds, and particularly of Abihar and the other planets of our solar system, both seen and unseen, forever attend you. As the human being is well motivated by love, our advice is to continue to manifest kindness and good works, for you never know when you shall find yourself in our presence. Your manifestations of love will garner you the prize of life, both happy and eternal. This is how we shall build a new earth and in turn bid you entrance to the glorious of Abihar and other orbs in the pleroma. We, along with our brothers Cosmic Ray and Frank Chile, as well as our sisters Omnek Onek and Sherry Lynn, look forward to meeting you on the slopes of Mount Shasta on the 27th through 29th of July for the From Venus with Love World Conference. Our blessings are transmitted to you and yours on multidimensional planes for a happy Valentine's Day. Keep love in your heart every day so that each and every one becomes a special Valentine's celebration. I regret that I cannot speak to you live at this time as I am conducting an important mission in the Saturnian system. This is the Queen.
Okay, so I was showing you some pictures of her. So I'll just this is a picture of him.
Right.
That when he was 18, and Gabriel Green was the person that introduced him. Gabriel Green made a lot of people have really amazing experiences. So notice her look there. Now contrast that with this look here.
Right.
Look at Raymond. Look how old he is and how she is.
Yeah.
They're wearing black.
Right.
And this black is because they're in a time travel experience here. They were on Venus in 2013, and she said, "Would you like to go back in time and look at something?" And he goes, "Yeah, let's go back to 1954, the first giant rock convention." So they went back there, but the nuclear experiments interfered with the tachyon drive, and the ship crash landed, and they got lost and had to get back to the future from 1954. This picture was taken by people. You'll notice she's holding something. It's called a nimbus. Raymond piloted the craft. He has a nimbus. So this is excellent adventure actually in time travel. It's an amazing story.
Wow.
This picture is actually her again. You see she's wearing these same Venusian sandals. This was in 1954. Earlier in the year at Mount Palomar, where George Adamski, the first contactee, was, and she came with this. This was a Martian named Firkon, and he was about 7 feet tall, 6'8" or 6'7", and this was Ramu from Venus. A Brazilian photographer took a picture of her, and she's holding her nimbus here. The crowd had started to question them. He's so tall, and she kind of looks like George Adamski's first contact. So they started to follow them, and they disappeared into some trees. A swarm of bees came out. By the way, Abihar means planet of the bees in the native Venusian tongue. So here we see how old she is. So we're proving ascension with the pictures of Annabelle Krebs, the Indian girl, and this is a form of ascension called translation, where the Vril technology is applied or used to create young bodies and conquering death. And she mentions that in my book. And then there's another picture of her with the nimbus. And of course, here's my buddy Valiant Thor. I've met all three of them. I met him at Gabriel Green near the desert, and I met her at an inner circle meeting in Las Vegas. and she was there. My girlfriend at the time was stopped looking at her, and I go, "You don't understand." And no one else recognized her except for Dr. Frank. I said, "Dr. Frank, we had a visitor," and he just smiled and didn't say a word.
Is that the same one with the red beret?
No, this is she's on one of the crew members of. This is Valiant Thor. Jesus Christ put him in charge of the Earth mission to Earth, overseeing the Earth 2,000 years ago, and so he's in charge of all of the Earth missions. The commander overseer. This is Vice Commander Don Thor.
But you haven't met him, right? Or you have?
I have. I met him.
You have. Okay.
In Utah briefly. I saw him in the story. I never met him. So, in the story with Dawn and the blonde girl was pretty interesting. The story with Dawn was Gabriel Grant. So, what do they wear when they're here? And he goes, and Gabe goes, this is before that the military guy came out and taught me that. The next day, he took me out in the desert, and Semyasi landed their ship right in front of me with Gabriel Green and him. I had a telepathic communication, and so that was tears were streaming down my face, and I go, finally, I get a physical contact. It's not out of body, and and then so Gabriel Green was a big force, and he said, he goes, and we're about ready to leave you. I go, what are they wearing? He goes, they love the 50s, Rob. I go, the 50s? He goes, yeah. They used to slick their hair back. They would, they loved the Fonzie, the American Graffiti. So we go to a store, and again, it's like a 7-Eleven or a TikTok. And I go into the store, and my friend Michael Allegion's there, and up comes mint condition, baby blue, sky blue, white, 57 Chevy. In the back are three gorgeous blonde. They never look over 28 or 29. They're just always young looking. So these three girls, they're wearing white blouses. Their hair's in pig or ponytails. They're wearing plaid skirts, knee socks, and saddle shoes. And they're come out like 8-year-old girls, so happy and skipping. They ran through the store, and I was looking like this. And the guy that was driving stayed in the car, and Don comes in. He's wearing a white T-shirt. He's got penny loafers with a penny in the loafer, and jeans with the cuffs rolled up. He's got his hair has kind of gone back in a duck with a little more emphasis on his curly front there, kind of slicked back a little bit. And I look at him, and he comes to the counter right in front of me, and I'm just like, my jaws agape. And he goes there, and he says, I'd like a pack of cigarettes. And so I telepathically said, Jim, I said, go ahead, smoke it. I know you guys don't smoke cigarettes. I dare you. Go ahead and light it up. So he sat there at the counter, and when they packed the cigarettes in the 50s, he was turning it upside down and packing it. And packing it. And then when I telepathically said, I dare you to smoke it, he says, I'll have some matches. So this is in the days when they gave matches. He takes the matches and the cigarettes, and he goes like this. He takes the top off. He looks at me, and then he puts it in his shirt, and he rolls it up. So that's the kind of, those are the kind of contacts I have. Not a silver spacesuit. It's not the mind F of a silver spacesuit and a spaceship. This is just kind of like me getting comfortable with their presence and realizing that they look just like us. They're our brothers and sisters. And then the girl Jill I met in Las Vegas, Dr. Frank Strange's had meetings where he would give advanced teachings from the commander directly, spiritual teachings about Christ and the angels and many different things. And this girl was in the back of the room, and I followed her around, and so I go, wow, I knew who she was. And I said, so I got to her at the lunch break, and I said, have you ever seen a UFO? And she looked at me, and she kind of went, no. never seen a UFO. And I was like, I kind of was dejected a little bit. And she goes, but I saw a spaceship once in New Jersey. And that's where that picture was. When she was with Valiant Thor in
Right.
1957, 2 weeks before I was born. He appeared in that picture. And so
Wow.
she asked me, she goes, what do you think about this currency reset and the money system? I said, it's going to take a lot more than money to heal this planet. And she walked outside, and I kind of followed her outside. And she pretended she's on the phone, and she went like this and just disappeared into the casino. So
Wow.
when I had the physical
So
meeting,
these
yeah,
so these physical meetings aren't planned, and they just happen spontaneously, and you least expect them, kind of thing.
I recognize one now that shows up, and he's come to several of my presentations. The very first time I revealed the message from the Queen of Venus, before the recorded one with Venusian, but the recorded messages from her. The first time I revealed that, no respect. I mean, we hear, oh, I've had this and I'm a researcher, they get top billing and all this stuff, and here is an actual recorded message to people of Earth from the
Right.
She's the Queen of Venus, and she's 400 and something years old in one Earth body, and she's not only the head of Venus, but because of what's taking place right now, she's head of the solar hierarchy within our solar system. In Saturn, there's a tribunal, and also the Ganymede portal, which is an interdimensional, multi-galactic way station. Jupiter's off limits to the Dracos, reptilians, and all those guys. And I learned that our Earth has 601 systems. 601, our Federation, which we will join, has 601 planets in 51 systems, including Tau Ceti, Sirius, Andromeda, Alpha Centauri, and on, and 51 systems. Different than the Pleiadians from Semyasi is involved in another one that I believe is called the Alliance. That has 1,000 worlds and even more systems, and they have a lot more population. So we're on the radial arm of the end of the galaxy. So the federations all work together. And during the advent of nuclear power and after Christ incarnated here, a lot of attention was placed on the earth. Christ is actually known, he was one of the 4 Kumaras, Sunat Kumara.
Right.
The elder brother, the first Kumara, was Jesus Christ. And so he took up the incarnation and was overshadowed by what we would know Archangel Michael. That's kind of a dumbed down human version of understanding that. So,
Right.
there's so much.
Where's the source? Where's the source of this information?
A lot of this comes from Raymond in my personal experiences and studies.
Okay, perfect. You got it. Do you have to?
No, he left. So I just so a guy that's working. He's helping me build my pyramid systems and stuff.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we talked about your products. We talked about
Thank you for that,
multiple
by the way.
ET contacts. I absolutely love this dialogue and discourse, and I'm enjoying what we're discussing here. The Raspberry Beret, they know who they are from birth, or do they just show up and start serving their mission, or what happens exactly?
There's a couple different terms here I'm going to use. When you come in incarnation, like Raymond came in for the full rounds, usually,
Right.
The full, usually 12 lifetimes and different astrological signs.
Right.
You do that 12 times, and you should be graduating from the 3rd dimension. When you go on to the higher dimensions, you can choose to come down and
Right.
serve. Raymond was already what they call a metron, a very
Right.
high being on Venus. And so when he chose his incarnation, he came into Earth for the duration. So he would die, and then he would go, and he would kind of hang out in a no space until his next incarnation would come and learn. And I looked at his life, and he told me about that incarnation. I go, wow, that's exciting, first lifetime. What about the rest? He said, pushing carts and herding sheep, not really interesting the rest of my lifetimes. And until this lifetime, and of course now he is a liaison cosmic historian, and he's been given high privileges. He travels with them. They show up. He never knows when or where. He's no way to communicate. They just show up. They send messengers down to protect him, to guide him, and he does have certain security devices. I don't generally share those in public. The Nimbus technology that and they're monitoring everyone's thoughts around him, so their security is extremely tight. The Pleiadians don't have they're very high technology, but they don't have the numbers. They're allowed to come here to contact their representatives according to certain protocols established by the Venusian and the solar hierarchy of light. So I've learned a lot about the politics of the interdimensional stuff, and we're on the radial arm of the galaxy, so it's the wild west. Venus their only population is 5 million in the solar system with all the moons and stuff. I mean, I don't know how many people are on Mercury and bases underground. I mean, I'm not talking about in the fifth dimension, but the solar beings that's kind of like the college graduates of the life streams live in the sun energy. But I wouldn't, and I'm no expert, I don't know, but I can paint a rough sketch from my 43 years of study and contact. And it seems to me that this is opening up now. The fact that they've allowed me to have a recorded message where they answer 8 questions, and they're showing, Raymond's providing pictures of ascended beings. In the book Lady Columba, he's got stuff. He has pictures of her when she's 18 in Pennsylvania, and then you have pictures of her looking like 24 with the blonde hair and a red beret. And if you wanted, you could look up her life when she was 80 and 90 and 60 and 70 years old on Earth. So it's the same girl. And this is the glories and the wonderful aspect of becoming one of the firstborn, or reestablishing the perfection of our life in service to God. A lot of people get into the Christ thing and service to Jesus, and people get turned off on that because the church has been pretty corrupted, and personality worship can get you in trouble. But I think, to be honest, if anyone's going to be personality worshipped, it would be the highest incarnation possible on the physical plane, because the ensouling logos of this entire galaxy, Archangel Michael, ensouled, overshadowed Sunat Kumara in that incarnation as Yeshua, which we would call Joshua ben Joseph. And so there's so many mysteries that are to be revealed, but the dogma of religion has tainted the spiritual thing, and Christianity is going to be really continue to be attacked, as so will be God through rationalism, and that period of tribulation and judgment is not over yet, and I think it has to play out its time. But if we abide in the truth will abide in us.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, God is in our hands, and we're in God's hands, as another person I interviewed says it.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
It is. It's so amazing. So then, the idea that people can employ the pyramids to help themselves to raise their vibe.
Absolutely, clearly, you wear a pyramid on your head. One of the things we did at Thelma Moss with the pyramids, they had color photography. They have, the galvanic skin response that measures your brain waves. So
Yeah.
they took the girl with the migraine and they put the thing on her head and they wore the pyramid and her brain went into alpha. She didn't have to think about it. It just took place. Her headache subsided because it opens up the vascular flow into the brain and all that stuff. And of course, the hormones are in there. So you have 7 colors of the rainbow. Everyone has a specific key frequency, which is your divine chord, the lost chord, your own frequency, which is your higher self, your note in the symphony and the infinite music of the spheres of creation. Everything has a sound, light, and color, and an image, and a frequency, and a fractal. So each of these glands are secreting hormones. But we have radiation, we have chemtrails, we have foods. So this is a big aspect of fluctuation. Then we have the elf waves. So the pyramid acts as a Faraday cage. So I'm going to show you one image here that's kind of cool. One little video I have that really shows. It's really going to show you what the pyramid can do as protection. So I'm going to share the screen, and then this is a real obvious and simple one. So I just did this. There's no trickery in this. So I basically just did this. Here's a meter, and I'm going to turn it on, and it goes way high, and then I put the pyramid over it, and you can watch and you can imagine if there's 5G coming at you, you use this. 214 red blinking, stay away.
Okay, folks, here, watch. I got my meter. I got my cell phone. Watch how the pyramid can change the signal. 211 down to 76, down to 71. My battery's a little low. This brings it into, and then we come up here, we take the pyramid off. You see it goes to 223. That's it.
Cool.
So I recommend people turn off your cell phones.
Okay, folks, here, watch. I got my meter. I got my cell phone. Watch.
So I recommend people turn off their cell phones at night or switch it from 5G to 3G, at least, if you need it open. Don't hold it as much as possible. Wi-Fi or Ericsson, Bluetooth, it's better to have a little radio signal than to hold the phone close or hold it in your hand and stuff. And of course, these pyramidal arrays, when you combine crystals amplify thought forms. So that's the Pleiadian technology. They actually have spaceships that run on crystals that are activated from the higher consciousness. There's so much that is waiting for us as we develop ourselves spiritually into the new sciences. And everyone must know absolutely the governments are keeping free energy from you. They're keeping healing. They murder, they buy, they hide this. These criminals must be arrested. We must have an audit of every corporation, and then every corporation we must have a law that every person who works for a company gets an equal share of the company. People aren't going to like that, but if we respect the law of allowance and allegiance, that we're together as one people, and we reflect that, even the janitor deserves a healthy living wage. He's contributing to that company. We can't have people earning hundreds of billions in hedge funds, and those are evil demons who are giving hundreds of millions of dollars to black budgets and underground bases. Our wealth has been stolen into underground bases of genetics and negative stuff. So the revelation of the apocalypse is revealing the truth to people, and they have nowhere to go. Their bases have been destroyed by the military, and at the deeper levels, the galactics have removed most of the reptilians. We're still in a full-blown battle, but right now it's just a bunch of hybrids on television, talking heads, propaganda machine, and the herd of sheeple is moving in one direction off a cliff. And there need to be more people to stand up, speak out, and start urging their brothers and sisters to turn their consciousness towards the spirit of truth within themselves.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much for this time you spent with me discussing all these matters and sharing your insight and sharing your experiences, especially. We look forward to another maybe follow-up interview because there's so much here, and I'd love to delve deeper into some of these subjects we've discussed, and maybe pick one subject out at a time and go through each one of them at a later date with you, if that's ever possible.
I would love to do that. I think I'd love to get you do a show about Raymond and the Queen.
Absolutely.
Take you through the time travel stuff and
yeah,
talk about her life a bit, and then we can bring Raymond in. I'm gonna text you his phone number now, and I'll give him a call and tell him to expect your call.
I'd love that. Thank you.
And we can maybe do a show together when you're ready.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would love to do that. Thank you so much. It was an honor to interview
Thank you so much. Give my love to Dave. I really appreciate his service and his work, and you supporting him. And it's been an honor today. And thank you. And one of his days when things lighten up for him, I'd love to interview him about his.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to set that up for you in the coming weeks here. He's just, summer always makes things a lot busier than normal. So
that's great. Yeah, I understand. I mean, he has an inner circle too. Mine's not as, he's got a lot going on there. I have that dump of information. If you go through those links, there's books and I don't agree or know everything, but there's Why We Are Here, Gloria Lee. She's the Ascended Master Lady Asteria. She died on a hunger fast. They wouldn't reveal the truth of UFOs, and she passed away. And she is actually now an Ascended Master in the 7th dimension. And Raymond will be able to talk about ascension, the physiology of it, the technology, and the spiritual nature. He can talk about life on different systems, the relationships between the federations.
Would love to do that.
And how they do that kind of stuff. And he focuses on the love and light. He does expose, of course, the dark force. I encourage him to do that because we can't just ignore the darkness. We have to look at it. We have to expose it to the light of day, and like mold, it'll blow up and go away. So we'll look forward to something in the future. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, Robert.